Today, we are joined by author, speaker, marketer, tech geek. He is the founder of automationagency.com. He has sold 3 businesses before age 25. We are joined here by Carl Taylor. Welcome to the show.
It's so good to be here, Mark.
Carl, my pleasure. I've been listening to you. You're a very busy young man. You know that you're doing a lot of different things. So I'm kind of curious, going back 10 years, would you ever have imagined you'd be where you're at today?
Ooh, 10 years ago. Yes and no. 10 years ago, I wrote my first book, Red Means Go. So I was very much, like, I'm going to have this amazing, incredible life. But did I imagine it to be anything like what my life is today? No, definitely not.
That's one of the things that I found throughout my journey into entrepreneurship. There's all these twists and turns. Was there ever an aha moment you were like, that's it, I'm on the right track, I'm going to dig deep? Or was it just kind of like a natural thing? What was that aha moment at for you, Carl?
Aha moment. I would say that there wasn't one aha moment. There were numerous ones along the way. Like automation agency, my main current business today, that came about from me procrastinating. Like, I was a coach. I was teaching people about buying, selling businesses. And then what happened is just consistently people around me were like, I need help with Entreport. I need help with Infusionsoft. Like, you're really good at all that stuff. Couldn't you do something? Couldn't you hire people? Couldn't you, like, what can you do around that? And so it was really a slower burn but eventually when it all fell into place, it was like one of those aha moments. But I wouldn't say it was one of those things where I just woke up and was like, this is my life. This is what I'm going to do. It was little steps along the way until eventually you look back. I'm sure we can all relate to that. You look back in life and all the dots seem to connect. But when you're sitting in a dot, which we all are right now in this moment, we are in a dot. We don't know where that dot connects to. But in 10 years' time, you'll look back and you'll potentially go, that dot is exactly why I'm where I am. And so, yeah, I don't think that I can sit in this dot and go, I know where it's going to connect, but I can look back and see those little aha moment dots for sure.
That's a really cool way of putting it, connecting the dots, because you just don't know what's coming next. And that's that's been my main motto over the past year or so is do, fail, learn, get comfortable with discomfort. Because if you're comfortable all the time, you're not pushing it. You're not getting close to that next dot, right? Was there ever an event or a moment where you just said, okay, I'm going to try this new thing and it worked out and you're like, okay, I'm just going to keep rolling with it? Obviously with automation agency and helping the coaches, would you say that was the big turning point for you?
Yeah, that was a big one because like back when I was teaching people about buying and selling businesses, it was good. I loved it. I had some great students who were getting some really good results, but it was, as a business model, it was a hard sell. It was hard to convince people who were already in a business why they might want to acquire competitors. They were like, I've already got a business, I don't want to buy one. And I was attracting a lot of people who were like, oh, I want to buy a business, but I kind of had a flagship offering called How to Buy a Business for $1. And the challenge with that marketing, it was a great hook, but the problem was it was attracting a lot of people who had about $1 to their name. So they didn't have a lot of cash. Yes, you buy a business for $1. There's a reason you pay for the business. It's going to need cash flow. It's going to need other things to get it fixed. And so it was a hard slog business. The people who went through it was amazing, but I struggled to get the numbers I wanted. And so the business was struggling a little bit. I got down to about $5,000 left in the bank and I had more than $5,000 in outgoings. And that's when I kind of really started to pivot to, you know what, I'm going to quit coaching. There were other aspects. I was getting frustrated, as any coach listening can probably relate, that you can teach, but you can't necessarily get them to do the action, right? You can inspire, but at the end of the day, they've got to take the action. Yeah. So that can be frustrating too. And then ultimately, when automation agency kind of started, it was consuming all of my time. I started it as an agency where I was the guy doing the sales. I was the guy doing the copywriting for clients. I was project managing. I was doing everything when I first started automation agency. We were a high-priced agency, high-end projects. There was no consistency. And then eventually one day I just like, why don't I flip my model? What if instead of selling the $200 a month thing after a project, what if I sold the $200 a month thing first and then decided to do projects afterwards? And when I made that decision and I started marketing it that way, that was one of those pieces all just kind of fell into place and we just exploded. And then we stopped doing projects because that was just didn't make sense anymore. And we just stuck to the subscription.
I'm curious, how did you identify that you needed to change your offering from the big ticket and then the service on the back end to the service into the big ticket on the back end, right? How did you flip your model? Would you have a mentor? Were you part of a mastermind? Were you just like meditating in the morning? How did you come to that, Carl?
Oh, I mean, I'm always in masterminds and I've always got mentors going on. So yes, I did have masterminds and mentors that I was in. I'm sure they impacted and had played a role in it. The big shift that I remember, I mean, we're going back now 6 years or so.
Mm.
The big shift that I remember was I had a number of clients who had done a big project with me. A number of them had come on to my 200, what we call platform management at the time, $200 a month, kind of ongoing, unlimited work to keep the Ferrari we built you operating. And and then I was mentoring. I was going to this program called Business Blueprint run by a friend of mine, Dale Beaumont. And I was one of the mentors at a round table that people could come down and sit with me. And a lot of people would sit down at my table and they'd get my marketing advice and they'd talk about this. And they would then go and hire a virtual assistant. They would go, or they already had a virtual assistant, and they would let them loose in their Entreport account, or they'd let them loose in this marketing stuff. And they were wondering why they were getting poor results. That I would see what had been set up and I would cringe at just like, and if they didn't go and get a virtual assistant, they would go and hire a high priced agency who promised them the world, who
Yeah.
delivered not the best result. And I was like, okay, these people can't afford, because I was trying to get them to sign up to my projects. They couldn't afford, or they weren't willing to invest the 10, 15 grand in the projects that we were doing. And I was like, but they could get a lot of value of using us on our $200 at the time month program. I was like, if they had access to that, they wouldn't need to get a virtual assistant, or their virtual assistant could stick to the stuff that they're good at, the general stuff. And we've got the specialists who know how to do the graphic design, the WordPress development, the marketing automation stuff. And that was when I was like, okay, what if I just try it? I've got a pool of people who would be a perfect fit for this, but they can't, I had the market and my offering was not working, but I had an option and I just thought, let's try it. And I remember it was a flatmate I was living with at the time. He's also an entrepreneur. I was anxious as anything. I was like, oh, $200 a month. Like, I don't know if this price point really scales.
Right.
Like, because I've been surrounded, and anyone else listening, you may have been surrounded by a lot of people who say, go high ticket, chart less clients at a higher price. I'd been surrounded by that for years. A lot of my mentors and coaches and people would say that. Even I had said that to people. And that here I was offering a high ticket offering. And yeah, when I got the cash, it was good, but there was an inconsistency. I thought, you know what? Let's just try a different model. And actually, another aspect that helped me, I remember, was I was on a webinar that Ryan Dice from Digital Marketer was running. And this is, again, like 6 years ago or so, but he was talking about how he had Digital Marketer Lab. And at the time, it was like $38. It was this absolute no-brainer, $38 a month for this great library of online marketing. And I remember thinking like, wow, like that's a really cheap, low offer. And he was on this webinar talking about why, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was talking about why he chose to do that. And he must have said something on that webinar that just made me go, let's try it. Let's just try offering the $200 a month thing and let's see how it goes. And my flatmate said, how many clients do you need to know if this works? And I said 30. If I had 30 clients, I think I'd figure out if this price point works. Now, I think we got to about 100 clients before I decided the price point needed to go up. But that's what I stuck at. I was like, okay, how do I just get 30 clients on this thing? How do I get 30 clients on this thing? And that's what ultimately led to what's now the core offering of what we call concierge service at Automation Agency.
Love it. Love it. So that's the automationagency.com, where you can find everything that Carl's building. And this makes a lot of sense. I think you hit on something, Carl, that's really, really important is before you started running with this new offering, you determined, hey, this is how many clients I need to actually make it work, right? You figured out what your break-even point is, where you can get to a point where you can actually pay yourself. I think that's something that a lot of side hustlers that are trying to go full-time don't really think fully about that. Like, based on this price point, how much do I need to sell? Is this going to be a variable expense? Because you're looking at bringing on new assistants, new VAs. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full-time. Smash one of these links.